This week, I am back with Kimberley G. Giarratano, who you might remember from last year. She wrote Death of a Dancing Queen and was on the podcast to talk about it back in 2023. And it was one of my top 23 of 2023 reads. I absolutely loved it. I really, really, really love Billie Levine, who is the main character in this series. And just the way that Kimberly writes noir, it just clicks with me. So if you're a noir fan and haven't started this series, you definitely need to, but you can totally listen to this episode too. We won't be getting into spoilers. The second book in the series deals with a little bit of art theft. So unlicensed PI Billie Levine is trying to bank some extra cash, so she picks up hours working as a process server for another investigative firm. Mindless and mostly 9 to 5, Billie is content to simply hand over court documents until, during a routine stakeout, she stumbles upon the corpse of an elderly man, an art collector with ties to Nazi Germany. Compared to Billie, the dead man has it easy. Billie is feeling on edge lately. Maybe it's because her father is insisting his estranged kids come to his wedding in Sedona, or that David is making plans to move out, or that a smug teaching assistant is getting underfoot on her latest case. Although it's possible she could use the help when the cops zero in on Billie's boyfriend, Aaron, and his connections to an international art ring. Turns out Aaron's stint in Israel has left him with more than just a thick scar across his neck. The woman he screwed over wants revenge, and she's determined to leverage Billie's murder case to get it. With the detectives focused on Aaron, Billie sets her sights on stopping a killer who is tying up loose ends, Billie being one of them. I devoured this book in a weekend. I was so excited that I was able to read it in 2 days. I had not been getting to finish books that quickly in a while. So this was such a perfect one to get to read that way because I just love Billie's world. I love the supporting characters. I love the tone and the fact that even though it's still kind of funny, it has some humor in it, she's still solving some dark mysteries. So it was just a perfect weekend read, and I could not wait to talk to Kimberly about it. So let's get into it. So last year I had you on and we talked about the first book in the series, and it was very fun. But it was also that was your debut into adult fiction. And was there anything that kind of like happened after releasing that where you're like, oh, this is a little bit different, or like did you notice anything that was different basically?
It was what made it most different was that Death of a Dancing Queen was my first book to come out with a publisher. Like I had been
Mm.
indie published before, and my very first book debuted with like a digital publisher. So this was the first
Mm.
time, like Death of a Dancing Queen was the first time I saw my book in bookstores where I didn't have to like haggle with people about where they could find it. It was in libraries. It was reviewed, like traditionally reviewed by all the trade journals. So that's really what made the experience so different for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not so much the adult sphere of it all, but
Yeah.
the larger reach I had for my work, which was kind of the coolest part of all.
Yeah.
I would argue that was what was really different. I was like, oh, there are people reading my book who do not know me. Normally it's
Yeah.
people who know me are reading it. Now it's people who
Mm-hmm.
don't know me who are reading it. So that really was kind of, and still to this day is like, what? We're
Yeah.
strangers. You're reading my book? Awesome.
Yeah, totally. No, that makes a lot of sense. um did was there anything different in your approach to writing this one than when you wrote the first one?
So I changed I want to say my outlining changed a little bit when I was doing it. I kind of have a little bit of a strict way of how sometimes I outline my books, and this book just took off on a different way. So I had to move things. Like I had a lot of action in book two, which like I had uh,
Yes.
a lot of action, and I actually had it really condensed. And my editor was like, "This is breakneck speed. We need to space it out a little bit. Your readers are going to be like, ugh." So I was like, but that doesn't work in my act structure that I do. I mean, obviously I
Yeah.
never changed. So for that, it was a little bit different. And I knew one of the nice things about working with your characters, your cast, is you know them so well. So the
Mhm.
characterization for me just felt so organic. I'm like, where do I know these people?
Yeah.
So building the plot was really so much fun because I just made it bonkers as I usually do. But and it was nice introducing new characters. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that. I had a lot of fun picking up the humor. I had a lot of fun picking up the banter. I had a lot of fun exploring people that I didn't get to explore too deeply the first time. But also when you're dealing with your character, like she's improving over the course of the series. So with each
Yeah.
book, she has to, and Billy in particular, she has to overcome something.
Mhm.
And in book two, she's dealing with a lot of anxiety, which I have personally dealt with. So it's kind of not easy to write, but familiar. Like I know what I'm talking about. But with each book, yeah, I just turned in three. I just turned in book three.
Ooh,
So
yay.
that's now with my editor. I don't have to look at it for a couple of months. I'm very happy. Like,
You get a break from it.
yeah, you're just like,
Yes.
but even then I was like, Billy's constantly a work in progress, but how much, sometimes it can be a little bit hard. We're not always thinking about self-improvement all the time, but we do have to see that in our character arcs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love her. She's one of my just like favorite characters ever. I always have fun reading these books. And just like you were saying, like it's really fun that there's the humor in it. There's still like the mystery going on. And actually what you said too, this one has like so much action in it. Like there's a lot going on in a lot of the different scenes. So I just like right when I picked it up, I was like, it was like I just finished reading the first book and I was like, oh yeah, I love being in Billie Levine's world. So do you have a favorite part about writing Billy specifically?
I love when she faces off when she confronts bad guys. I love her when
Yeah.
she confronts bad guys. In the first book, she confronts a neo-Nazi, and just like she's terrified, but she's never going to show it. She's going to be very strong, and like it's my favorite when she just comes across baddies. I just enjoy that. I like it when she is um antagonistic. I
Mhm.
enjoy her most when I get to write very sharp banter, when she gets to show her strength, when she doesn't back down, even if she's not correct, or even if like this is a really dangerous situation she's gotten herself into. That's kind of my favorite part to write. It's just
Yeah.
nobody's like that in real life. That's why it's books. This is fiction, not nonfiction. So
Right.
be I can make her as like crazy, like not crazy. That's not the word I'm looking for. But I would like, if I was being confronted by a neo-Nazi, I don't think I would be snarky or like, I don't think I would be shooting my mouth off.
Right.
But Billy can. So that's what
Yeah.
that's like the fantasy element of it too. I'm like, how
Yeah.
ridiculous and is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, you were mentioning too, like the book kind of deals with her anxiety. Like her anxiety is even growing in this book, but it's not entirely not realistic that like I feel like a lot of us do have to just like face things that are scaring us, like just because you just have to anyway. So it's not like it's totally, I mean, I wouldn't do well actually going up against bad guys most likely, but it is kind of grounded in that like even though she is anxious and the stuff is like stressing her out, she's still just like committed to figuring it out, or like just has to have the answers, so she's still pretty much going to go after it anyway. So with any of that, like maybe some of your personal experience kind of put into there where it's like, yeah, I'm anxious but life must go on.
Yeah, I always say I ground Billy is grounded in a reality that is very
Yeah.
familiar. Her family dynamics are very real. Her anxiety is very real. I would argue confronting neo Nazis, confronting international art thieves is not the very real aspect of what I do. But
Yeah.
her life is grounded in a reality that I can definitely relate to. But one of the things I think I covered with Billy was she didn't really know why she was anxious because things were going okay. And she even
Hmm.
says that, I think, in the earliest part of book two, where she's just like, things are fine and stable. I don't know why I'm feeling like anxious. And, I get anxious having to deal with like making a phone call I don't feel like making,
Yes.
or having to just tackle a bunch of emails that I've been putting on the back burner, or trying to juggle working and dealing with my children and a myriad of other things that can cause a lot of anxiety that are just small tasks that, over the course of my life, I still haven't learned to deal with because there's probably a little ADHD in there mixed into who the hell knows. But that's the problem. I have a friend with anxiety, and she's constantly like, I don't know why I'm anxious. Everything's going well, but it's just not. Sometimes that's just not what anxiety disorder is about. It's part
Right.
of our lives. It comes and goes at its will,
Mm-hmm.
on its frame and not ours. And yeah, as parents, as working adults, as we have to deal with our anxiety whether we want to or not. And the problem is we don't deal with it well. That's why there's medication. That's why there's therapy, because by
Yeah.
itself, well, I have definitely not handled my anxiety in the best of ways. And then I'm like, why am I ruminating? Well, I didn't even know what ruminating was until I went to a
Yeah.
therapist. Oh, that's what I'm doing in the car. There's a word
Yes.
for it. Or, that's why I'm grouchy, or that's why my hands are tingly. So one of the things her hands get tingly. And I
Yeah.
remember sitting reading in my bed and like my hand I kept shaking out my hand. And then I find out
Mm.
hands is a symptom of anxiety disorder.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. My anxiety had been pretty manageable for a while, and then like a month ago, a little more than that, just got like so out of control again. So I feel you there because sometimes you're like, I even logically know
Hmm.
that my feelings aren't making sense, or like I can even tell myself the logic of like, oh, I'm okay, but you just for some reason don't feel like you are, and you're like, okay, cool. This is what's happening. But there, like you said, like there's stuff that does help, and it is just kind of like focusing on incorporating more and more of that into your life for the most part. um but yeah, it does come out in really random ways, especially like it did for Billy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of reading these books is the supporting cast. There's like in both books, there's just like such fun people for her to be having like fun banter dialogue with. And so it makes it feel so distinct and unique, and like it really is like a whole world that you've imagined. So who did you have the most fun writing outside of Billy?
I adore writing Gramps. Her
Yeah.
grandfather is so much fun to write. And I liked writing. So we have a new character. His name's Jeremy. And I really
Hmm.
enjoyed writing him because he and Billy have very good conflict.
Yeah.
Um, and the way they talk to each other is a little bit combative in a way
Mhm.
that I had a lot of fun with. But Gramps is I love her. I love her grandfather. I mean, I adore
I
him, and I write
know.
him in a way that I think makes it obvious that I adore him. He's her
Yeah.
grandfather, but really he's her dad at this point because he is there
Right.
and her father is not. So
Yeah.
he's a good man, and he is
Mhm.
a former private eye. So
Mhm.
he instills in Billy a lot of these lessons that she, rules that, Gramps' rule number this, which I really need to
Mhm.
write. Um, his rules for the business that she follows, but she also breaks the rules and she does
Mhm.
things that he doesn't like, and he tells her. And I got to explore that a lot more in the third book I just turned in. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping readers who like Gramps, like her grandfather, will definitely really love book three because he has a little bit of a larger role there too. And you know, he's so much fun to write. So I would argue, yes, Gramps for 100%. And then I really did enjoy
Yeah.
writing Jeremy.
Yeah. Their conversations were very fun. I have another question, but I think it's spoilery, so I'll have to ask you about that one afterwards.
Okay.
But you were talking about Gramps and how he mostly is her dad. And so one of the things that gets brought up in this book that's kind of contributing to her anxiety is that her dad, who hasn't been there, is like calling and asking them to come to the wedding, to his wedding. Is the dad gonna be in the third book as well? Or that might be too spoilery, I don't know.
I mean, her father, I mean, he isn't. I mean, I don't know if it's a big spoiler, but like
Yeah,
he's a contributor to anxiety. He's not
yeah,
present. And he
yeah.
he makes himself present. He's a stressful person.
Mm-hmm.
So he's calling, he left their family, took off with another woman, and then now is going to
Mm-hmm.
get married to her. And
Yeah.
he's asking the kids to come, and Billy and her brother don't want to do this, and he keeps
Yeah.
calling, and when he does call, it's very like, there's a lot of conflict, and she's avoiding these calls. And it's a huge source of stress for her, because she could just
Mm-hmm.
avoid picking up the phone, and most of the time she does, but when he
Yes.
calls, that's off a lot of anxiety and nausea in her. And
Yes.
fathers and their children, that theme, fathers and their kids, it features prominently in this book, so that's really what I
Yeah.
wanted to explore.
Yeah.
And so
It really
it's,
does.
yeah, definitely, having to deal with, like, parents, and Billy dealt with her mother, as because Billy's a caretaker, as is a brother, so that was really
Mm-hmm.
explored a lot in book one. And in
Yep.
book two, their caretaking responsibilities are alleviated somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
They're learning how to work within the system for that as well in the
Yeah.
second book. But there's always something, and it's just, we do forget, or at least I forget sometimes. Billy's only 24,
Right.
and she is definitely dealing with a tremendous amount of responsibility that doesn't seem to be abating anytime soon. So it's kind
Yeah.
of all just adding to her anxiety, which is
Yeah.
why I have fun in other ways. That's why the book isn't so, like, depressed. Like, I never want anybody to finish reading a Billy book going, "Oh, that was depressing." Like,
Right.
everybody, like, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, there was some deep stuff, but I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. It does. It's kind of like that's how I always describe it, even just from the sense that like there's humor and there's mystery going on. So it is all balanced out. Like you're never like stuck in a really dark place in the book ever.
Yeah,
Um
because
so
I
what
don't want
was
to.
your or sorry, what?
I don't want to be there. I don't want to
Yeah.
be. I can't. I don't know how to write without humor. I think I'm funny. Maybe,
I do too.
like, you're not, but I think I'm funny.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's gonna squeeze in, it's gonna, like, get into my work no matter what, because I just can't help myself. Also, because it's a
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it makes it even more fun for sure. So we know kind of like you already had the inspiration for the characters because a lot of them came from the first book. But as far as like the plot and the mystery that she was solving, what was your inspiration for that idea?
I read an article in the Atlantic. It was published in March of 2018. I don't think I read it then, but I found it. It was about an elderly gentleman named Cornelius Gurlitt, who was the son of Hildebrand Gurlitt, who was one of Hitler's art collectors,
Mm-hmm.
plunderers, stealers, because that was Hitler's thing, stealing art.
Yeah.
Um, Particularly raiding Jewish collections, raiding museums. Like, we lost a lot of art in World War II.
Yeah.
Lot of art, and it's still missing. There's tons of
Wow.
pieces. Like, we think we go to a museum, we see Picasso, we see Monet, we see Marc Chagall and stuff, and we're like, oh. But there are tons of their work that's missing, and a lot of it was stolen by the Nazis during World War II. So this elderly man named Cornelius Gurlitt was found on a train with a lot of cash. He was taking a train between Munich and Switzerland, and he was found with a lot of cash. So I believe German officials started looking into his finances, and there was some, like, shady stuff going on. He was the son of a collector. He inherited, because this wasn't his to begin
Right.
with, about 1,500 works of art, priceless works of art, from his father, who had stolen all of this stuff. And he would periodically sell off pieces of the collection for money. He was
Mm-hmm.
kind of hoarding it. So that really just birthed the idea of, what if there was a hoarder in North Jersey that
Yeah.
Billy finds, who has been hoarding his father's art collection, and so that's sort of what birthed the idea for the book. And I was like, this is great. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
you'll hit on an idea, and I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing with this. And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
I make it complicated as I start drafting. I'm like, what if I do this? If I do this, if I do that.
Yeah.
But that was the inspiration. I found it really fascinating that, because World War II is far away, and it isn't. It's
Mm-hmm.
we're at 2024. The war, like, we're gonna inch up. So, like, it's going to be a century before we know it. When the war started, and it feels so far away and it doesn't at the same time because we're
Yeah.
not generations removed. So that was the inspiration. And I did do research. So if you're reading the book and you hear artists mentioned, they are real people. The characters are not real, but artists, works of art, if I'm insinuating anything, that's real. I looked it up.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because I don't know much about art, but obviously this one like revolves around art theft and or like the shady ways that people inherited or got art. And it did seem like you really knew about like the history of art. So were you interested in it before that article, or did you kind of learn everything after that article gave you the idea?
So I wish I was saying to somebody, I was like, oh, I wish I majored in. I wish I'd taken art history.
Mm,
I like art history. I like it because I love history. So
yeah.
I do love art. I have a lot of art in my house. My great grandfather painted for fun. That was a
Oh,
retirement hobby. But I do love art. But am I super knowledgeable? No, I had to do a lot of research.
yeah.
The players, their names, but for the most part, I had to do quite a bit of research
Yeah.
to make sure that I was being as accurate as I could. I wasn't being like super specific in certain cases. I didn't really
Mhm.
want to take a lesson that I was providing. Um,
Mhm.
so I was careful about how I incorporated it, but I did have to
Yeah.
look at it. I didn't know any of this off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I was like Googling people as they like popped up in the book because I was like, I wonder if this is real. And
Yes.
then, like, obviously, multiple of them were.
Attention readers, it's real. If I mention
Yeah.
an artist, they're real. But if
Yeah.
character book, not real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're just real in our minds, they just feel real.
Yeah.
Um, so with this one, did you know like how everything was going to resolve when you started writing it? Or so I think you mentioned outlining it, but did you know when you started where it was headed, or did you find it kind of along the way?
I always know how my books will end. I always
Mm-hmm.
know that. I don't know how I'll get there sometimes. Even when I outline, I'll go back and I'm like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And there'll be a really twisty path to get to that end, but I always know how I want it to end. Always.
Yeah.
I just, I've never changed an ending.
Yeah.
Beginnings, I'm like, nah, I don't like this scene, but I always know
Mm-hmm.
how it's going to end.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my last question was going to be, is there more for Billy? But it sounds like there is if you've turned your third one in already. So I
I
am
have turned
super
the third
excited.
again. We have a title. We
Nice.
not telling anybody yet. That's
Yeah.
exciting. I have a
Yeah.
title. I have a premise. Obviously, it's drafted. So
Hmm.
I'm again. When you finish a book, it's like exercising like a part, like exorcising like a part of you. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's done.
Yeah.
It's in my editor's hands now, and
Hmm.
I hope she enjoys it. I've never had. What did you do? I get. I explore female toxicity in the third book.
Ooh,
I was like, what is like, I was like, I really want to explore really awful women. So that's what I did. Uh,
nice.
yeah, I was just in a mood and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. So that's nice and done. But I need readers to, if everybody would like to see more Billy books, then we just need readers to get on board and tell all
Yeah.
your friends you should read this, ask your library to get it. That's a big thing that I tell people. It's like, you don't have to buy the book yourself, you can ask your library to buy it, and then
Yeah.
it goes to circulation and then lots of people get to read it. So I'm a
Right.
big proponent of libraries. Use them.
Yeah.
And I always tell my library, can you buy this book? And they do. I'm the first hold, and then other people get to enjoy it rather than
Nice.
it sit on my shelf, which I don't have a lot of books anymore. Probably very
Yeah.
surprising because I use the library.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
And then that'll
We just had, oh, sorry, what?
I was gonna say book three will be out next summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited for it. So you're saying you use the library a lot. Is there anything recently you've read that you've loved?
Yes. So I don't typically read bestsellers because there's usually a long holds list and
Yeah.
there's so many to read. But I read The Women by Kristen Hanna. I've never read her
Yeah.
before. I could not put that down. So good.
Nice.
I know it's a big book. She doesn't need my promotion. The book is a
Y-
New York Times bestseller. She's selling millions of copies. She doesn't need Kim's endorsement in any way, shape, or form. But I couldn't put it down. What else did I
Yeah.
just read? The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Again, a woman who does not need my help.
Ooh,
But I
yeah.
really enjoyed that. And you know what I'm reading now?
Yeah.
So if you like time travel and mysteries, Kelly
Ooh.
Armstrong, again, an author who does not need my help. I really should be like listening voices who are like, help me. She writes this series called Rip Through Time. It's about a
Okay.
Canadian police detective, a modern female Canadian police detective who goes back in time to 1869 Edinburgh, Scotland.
Uh-huh.
And it is so well done. Speaking of research, what this woman must do, because
Yeah.
it's told through Mallory's first person point of view. She
Hmm.
describes this to the reader, to the modern reader. It's like she's telling the story to a modern reader. So she'll say
Yeah.
things like, when you see, a pub from the 1800s on television, yeah, that's not what it looks like. And when she's like, this is what it actually looks like, and she describes how
Nice.
police work is actually done in 1800 Scotland, and what,
Yeah.
they fingerprint evidence. So this is what they might do, or this is how they might collect something. Like, it's very well researched. I mean, and if it isn't, I am convinced. So, like, she's just, it's very well researched. I know.
Yeah.
When you're reading it, you're like, oh, and the way she describes women's clothing and like what she has to wear,
Mm.
and how, I just read a passage where she said, you can't just walk into a store and buy something off the rack. It has to be ordered for you, and that can cost like a month's wages. It's not like, and you can't just buy a dress. You have to make sure the shoes, you have to get a winter cape, everything has to go. It's so
Yeah.
good.
That sounds really good. I've heard a lot of people talk about the Kristen Hanna one too, the women. Like people really, really loved that one. And I haven't read Leigh Bardugo's yet either, but you've got me on this time travel-y one too. I'm very
I
intrigued.
found it at the library. I picked it up. I was
Nice.
browsing the news shelf. There it was. And I was like, this is like right up my alley. And I picked it up. And
Yeah.
then I can't put this down. I love historical fiction, but I love this
Mm.
so much because I feel like I am getting the interesting bits from a
Mm.
modern perspective, like as if she
Yeah.
really lived through time and she's telling me what it is like in 1869 or 1879 Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated. Fascinated.
Yeah.
So
It
I
was
would
reminding
recommend.
me of Outlander, which obviously
This is so
she's not
different.
totally modern, but it is kind of that same idea where she's like going way back in time to
Yeah,
Scotland.
I love Scotland, but
Yeah.
Outlander, I have been unable to read or watch. There's so much
Yeah.
sexual violence, I cannot hack it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
there
respect
is.
that it's a great story. I can't do it. I've had to
Yeah.
fast forward this show, but this is sort of different. Like,
Yeah.
there's a mystery at the core. I would argue probably fair play, but
Right.
seeing what Victorian Scotland looked like through a modern lens that is then
Yeah.
explained to a modern reader. Hey, it's very well done. I don't know. I'm like super
Yeah.
impressed. And the cool thing is, Kelly Armstrong's going to be pubbing with Datura, my publisher,
Oh,
has
nice.
coming out. So I was very excited to hear that. I was
I
like,
bet.
well, let me fangirl to her in person because it's a book.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was
That
very
would be
fun.
so cool.
Yeah, Datura's
Yeah.
doing amazing stuff. Great things.
Yeah. Those sound great. I'm definitely going to link those, especially
Yeah.
with the whole mystery element for sure. Otherwise, where can people follow you to stay up to date with all of the Billy news?
Well, you can find me online. Giarratano is a hard name. I'm like trying to see if my book's here. Oh, it is. Here she is. This is the new one with the jazzy cover.
Yes.
But you can
It is
find me under
so
my
cool.
name. I'm the only Kimberly G. Giarratano you'll find online. But
Yeah.
Threads. I'm on Threads. I patch around on Twitter a little bit, not a lot, and
Yeah.
Instagram, Garnet Giarratano, and yeah, you can find me on all those places.
Yeah.
I deleted my TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't delete the account. I just deleted the app. So
Yeah.
I love
That's okay.
TikTok. I
Oh,
know.
I love it too.
He's like, I had a security briefing on this. I think you should get rid of the app. I was like, okay.
Uh, oh
He works.
no, it's like one of my favorites.
I know. So now I just go on Instagram's like reels and I'll just watch trends weeks after they come out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if it's safer, we should probably all be doing it that way anyway. So,
Yeah, so I kind of did away with that. But yeah, you can just Google me easy
yeah,
and it should be. But yeah, and if anybody does see the book in the wild, like in a bookshop or someone's reading, please snap a photo and let me know. I would be delighted.
yes, yeah, for sure. I need to go request it from my library so I can go take a picture of it at the library.
I know. I tell everybody, I'm like, request it at your library. That's what I. That's
Yeah.
what I tell
We just
everybody.
had one literally like built like in our neighborhood. So it's like less than a mile away from me now. So I'll have to
A new
start.
library, a brand new library.
Yeah.
That's like a gift.
I
Oh
know.
God.
We didn't have one in our town this whole time, but our town has grown a lot in the last 10 years, partially because we have like tons of Amazon warehouses in the middle of all these farm fields. So now our town is slowly upgrading and now we have a library.
That's exciting. The not where I live, I have a library like 5 minutes away,
Hmm.
but then county built a brand new library several years ago, and that was like just a huge.
Nice.
It was like a gift. I'm like, I don't think
Yeah.
people realize what libraries do because they're under attack constantly right now in the United States.
Yeah.
Libraries are like the heart of a. They can be the heart of a community for sure. So
Right. Yeah, we see so many people going there already, and it's only been open for like a couple weeks, but it's like connected to all the walking paths in the neighborhood. So, like all these families, it looks like they're all just like walking to the library. So, I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you. That's like huge.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
better
it's
than
amazing.
your house.
Yeah, totally. Well, I will put all those links in the show notes so people can keep up to date with everything. And we'll have to talk again next year when the
Yes,
third one
please.
comes out.
I will email you as soon as I will email you definitely when I have a pub date and all that good stuff. But I
Yeah.
always enjoy talking to you. And thank you so much for the kind words. It really means a lot because you just never know when you write something
Yeah.
what the world is going to think, and it's your art, and it's always so hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I so loved it. So I will be Billy's number one fan forever.